The Eagles could have their MVP in Week 17. My name is Joe Dolan, and this is the final Fantasy Points Daily lineup of the 2022 NFL season.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Starting at quarterback for us, potentially, is Jalen Hurts. Hurts got in a limited practice on Thursday, including throwing the football, per Josh Tolentino of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Now, according to Tolentino, Hurts, quote, is taking all the first quarterback reps ahead of Gardner Minshew and Ian Book during the first few periods of practice, end quote. Now, this certainly seems like Hurts is pushing to play this weekend against New Orleans. A win would give Hurts 2 extra weeks to rest. Next week would be meaningless for Philly, and they'd lock up the NFC's number 1 seed and a playoff bye. Now, keep an eye on this situation, because even an injured Hurts with a lower percentage of designed runs is an obvious quarterback one with Philly's elite weaponry. Now, according to our Dr. Edwin Porras, Hurts playing this week through his SC joint sprain, not an AC joint sprain, is completely feasible. And most likely, pain management is the hardest part for Hurts. There isn't much risk of severely injuring himself any more than he's already hurt. Now, of course, Philadelphia has a good backup option in Gardner Minshew, and from a fantasy perspective, we saw why. Minshew threw for over 300 yards and scored a rushing touchdown, plus threw for 2 touchdowns against the Cowboys last week. So, if you have Jalen Hurts and you picked up Gardner Minshew last week, I mean, there's a good chance that Minshew did everything you needed to do to advance to the final. Now, if Hurts plays, you got to play him. There's no two ways about it. But Minshew, once again, is a viable backup option in the event Hurts doesn't play. We'll learn more today, but I'm expecting Hurts to be listed as questionable. And I don't know if we're going to get a final answer on whether or not he's going to start today. In that same game, we're going to be spending a lot of time with this game, by the way. We have our RB1. The Saints' Alvin Kamara has missed back-to-back practices, okay? That's not that strange. Guys get hurt all the time. But on Wednesday, Kamara missed with a personal issue that Coach Dennis Allen said he wasn't worried about. But Kamara also didn't practice on Thursday, and he was added to the injury report with a quadriceps issue in addition to the personal issue. And it'd be interesting if he somehow got hurt without practicing. Both issues are mysterious. But Kamara went on the record to Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football this week as being frustrated with his role, especially on third down. Quote, I don't know. You got to ask someone else, end quote. Kamara said about his declining role. The Saints' top backup running back, by the way, is the completely washed David Johnson. Yes, that David Johnson. Yikes. If Kamara goes, he's an RB2 against Philadelphia, which has a very short up run defense, by the way, since signing Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. But, not a pretty situation. Hey, I said we're going to spend a lot of time there. Let's stick in that game for our running back 2 spot. The Eagles' Miles Sanders got in a limited session on Thursday after missing practice with a knee injury on Wednesday. One of the NFL's healthier teams all season, the Eagles have been hit by a rash of injuries in recent weeks, so it's likely Philly was just managing their Pro Bowl running back. Sanders told reporters after practice that his Wednesday absence was more for a precaution. With the Eagles a touchdown favorite in Week 17 against the Saints, he figures to be a solid RB2 as he looks to rebound from a costly fumble in Week 16. I'm fully expecting Sanders to play this week. We take a brief respite from Philadelphia and head out to the Bay Area for our wide receiver 1. 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel got in a limited practice on Thursday, his first work since being carted off the field with a high ankle injury in Week 14. Remember after the injury that Coach Kyle Shanahan told reporters he expected Deebo to miss 3-ish weeks? Well, this is 3 weeks. However, I'm skeptical that Deebo will actually play this week. More likely, this is part of a ramp-up program to get him ready for the playoffs. And it's possible he gets limited snaps under his belt in Week 18, so he's not playing cold in the wildcard round. But from a fantasy perspective, I believe his season is over. Now, if you play in playoff contests or DFS, it's another story. In the meantime, I expect tight end George Kittle to continue in his strong role, having scored twice in each of the last 2 games. The Niners play the Raiders and Cardinals the last 2 weeks. Winnable games even without Debo. Let's head back to Philly for our wide receiver 2. The Philly-New Orleans game, to be more specific, because Saints rookie Chris Olave has gotten in back-to-back limited practices this week after missing Week 16 with a hamstring injury. Now, while his matchup with the Eagles' perimeter corners is, on paper, a brutal one if he plays, it is worth noting that per Fantasy Points data, Olave has run 26% of his routes from the slot over the last 5 weeks, when he has played, of course. That is notable because the Eagles are down slot cornerback Avonte Maddox, who has a significant toe injury. Now, once Maddox went down, the Eagles and backup slot corner Josiah Scott had few answers for CeeDee Lamb last week. Now, will the Saints put Olave inside more? Well, that would simply be good coaching. But who knows? The Saints haven't exactly been the most well-coached team this year. Olave is a wide receiver 2 if he goes in this game, because I do expect that they'll move him inside. Andy Dalton, the weather's supposed to be pretty good. I don't know. If Olave plays, I think I'm going to risk it and think he is the weapon that the Saints will choose to try to exploit the Eagles' deficiencies in the slot. In our flex spot, don't expect Lamar Jackson to play this week. Lamar has yet to practice with a PCL injury since going down early in Week 13. Tyler Huntley is going to start for the 4th consecutive game, and he's really struggled in this limited offense. But there's no indication there are any setbacks here for Lamar Jackson. The Ravens have clinched a playoff spot, and though they can still win the AFC North, they are eliminated from being the number 1 seed. Baltimore clearly believes that it's more important to have a healthy Lamar for the postseason as opposed to rushing him back to try to get a first-round home game. As for Lamar, well, he has a big offseason coming up with his impending free agency. The last thing he wants is a more serious knee injury than the one he already has. Now, my read on the situation is he'll be back for the playoffs and potentially in Week 18, but I do not expect him to go this week on Sunday night against the Steelers. I want to thank everybody for joining me for this. I don't want to call it an audacious project, but for me, getting up in the morning has long been a struggle for me, and this kind of gave me a purpose here, the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup did. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Ben Kukanis for getting up with me every morning, making the graphics and making me sound good and going through and sometimes dealing with me making a late change. I want to thank everybody for dealing with my issues with my dog Butterscotch, who had some issues that prevented me from doing the morning show on Tuesday the last couple of weeks. But it was a fun project. It was a really entertaining project, and it's something that I hope to build on in 2023. As for 2023, go to fantasypoints.com. Subscribe now, whether you're a subscriber now or you're a new subscriber. Go subscribe to the Super Early Bird Special. You get 30% off for the entire 2023 season. You do not need a promo code. The discount is already in there. Come talk to me in our subscriber Discord. Follow me on Twitter at FG_Dolan. I'm going to be sitting back, watching playoff football, with a fewer responsibilities. We still cover the playoffs, by the way. We cover the playoffs. We do playoff contests. We do all of our projections and what have you. But there's just a little bit less to do. I get to sit back and kind of really enjoy the season coming to an end. I want to thank everybody for joining me. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah. I hope everybody has a Happy New Year, and I'll see you down the road.